Hello friends, welcome to the fourth part of our series Excel dashboard from Tally Prime Data. This tutorial I am basically going to calculate closing balances of ledger, and from that I will try to prepare profit loss and balance sheet in pivot table. Okay, and this pivot table output you can use to prepare your actual financials by linking it. Let us continue from where we left. Now, to calculate closing balance, okay, we need to basically, for any ledger, in the opening balance, we need to add net debits and credit during the year. Now, you might be wondering that why I didn't created any field called closing balance when opening balance is there in the tally. The reason is simple. Closing balance is completely dynamic. So closing balance for, let's say, for April end can be different, May can be different. So we cannot actually hard code a field. So Tally does contain a field called closing balance, and it is driven by from to period in the utility which we are mentioning. Okay. But for the time being, I will show you how you can dynamically calculate the closing balance. So for this tutorial, I am considering that, let's say, our financial year is of 2021. So I will calculate closing balance for 31st March 2021. Okay, so ledger table is there. For ease, I will bring TRN accounting table close to the sheet. Okay, let me do some rearrangement. So I will drag and bring it somewhere near. Okay, ledger and TRN. So very simple. Take opening balance and sum all the debits and credit for that specific ledger. So you can always do using SUMIFS function. Okay, now there is one catch in this. Okay, so you might be able to now guess what is the catch. Okay, so if you go to TRN accounting, okay, I have pulled up many fields in previous tutorial. You can see a voucher type called purchase order, sales order, receipt note, and credit note. Okay. Now, technically, for calculating closing balance, you cannot add up purchase and sales order, because if you are booking purchase and again booking means adding up purchase order or the same, it will basically inflate or make it twice the amount. Now you would be wondering then why Tally is inserting row in the TRN accounting when order or delivery receipt note doesn't has any accounting effect. Reason is simple. So Tally wants to basically store data somewhere. Okay, for orders and receipt or delivery note. So basically it is storing it, but same time it is creating one flag, one or two flags, which tells that we need not consider this row. Okay, so which are those flags? So let's say if you want to exclude any purchase or sale order, so there is a flag called is order voucher. Okay, so if I select one, that means yes, so I will be left with only purchase and sale order. Okay, same way there is one more flag called is inventory voucher. If I set it to yes, it will show me along with orders also delivery and receipt note. Okay, so basically what I need to do while adding up the net debits and credit from the accounting table, I need to exclude all these orders and delivery receipt note. So I will say that wherever there is a zero in order voucher, only consider those. Okay, and wherever in inventory voucher there is zero only. So permutation combination of both. That means in order voucher also 0 should be written, and inventory voucher also 0 should be written. 0 means no, it is not an order voucher. No, it is not an inventory only voucher, which will arrive at the accounting effect or financial effect. Okay, so let's do this. So I will add one column called closing underscore balance, and let us drop the formula for it. is equal to sum IFS, sum ifs. I will go to accounting table. Now I need to total up amount column. Okay, amount is somewhere here. Okay, control space. So sum this entire column, amount column of this TRN accounting, comma. What are the conditions? So first condition that ledger. So ledger should match. So I will again press control space. So ledger should be is equal to the ledger row. Okay, or whatever ledger name. Okay, this name. Like for Amazon voucher, I should be adding up only those rows where ledger Amazon is written. Okay, comma. Second filters. Again, I will go to accounting table. Now here we will apply both this. Okay, is order voucher. I will select this, comma. It should be 0. So I can directly hard code 0 here, comma. Again, I will click here is inventory voucher, control space. Even this should be 0. Okay. Now these are net debits or credit during the year. To this we need to add even closing balance. Okay, plus closing balance. Sorry, opening balance. So to this we need to add opening balance. So let us look at opening balance. So net debit credit plus opening balance. So this is the basically closing balance. Let us format it. So negative means debit, positive means credit. We will require some more information to prepare balance sheet or profit loss from this. Like let's say we have all the ledgers and these are groups. Now which ledger is a balance sheet item and which is P&L item, this we require. And if it is balance sheet and P&L, then which is debit or credit, or let's say asset liability, income expenditure. So we'll require this information. So basically this information is there itself. So is revenue. So if is revenue is 1, that means yes, that means it is a profit loss item. Otherwise it is a balance sheet item. Okay, so I can add a column. Let's say BSPL, balance sheet profit loss. Okay, and we can write an if condition here is equal to if. Okay, let's say if is revenue is equal to 1. Okay, then this is P&L. So I will write PL simply. Otherwise, this is balance sheet BS. Okay. This way we have balance sheet and profit loss type ledgers. Okay, now next you can write debit credit, or you can also have more better information like asset liability income expenditure. Okay. So if you want just debit credit, you can write the same if. Now this time instead of is revenue, you can create a condition here. Let me show it. Let's say DrCr, debit credit. Okay. So you can prepare something like this is equal to if this is deemed positive is equal to 1, then this is a debit DR, otherwise this is a credit CR. Or let's say if you want asset liability income expenditure, asset liability income expenditure, ALI, new short form. So we can make a combination of this. Okay, let's say is equal to if this is equal to, sorry, this is equal to BS. So it doesn't matter capital or small, it is not considered. Okay, if this is BS balance sheet, okay, then there is two possibility, debit and credit. I will write another if. Okay, if this is balance sheet and inside true, I will again write another if where say that if this is, sorry, this is equal to, let's say DR, that means debit side, then it is asset, otherwise liability. Okay, this if is over. Now outer if, false. That means if it is not BS, that means naturally it is profit loss. PL, I will write again if. Okay, if it is PL, profit loss, then I will again check that if this debit credit is equal to DR, if it is debit side, then it would be expenditure. Otherwise, it would be income, credit income on profit loss. Okay, this way we have all these columns or field ready, whichever you want to use. So these are very handy for our balance sheet and profit loss. Now, before we start with profit loss and balance sheet, let me show you two exceptions which you need to remember. Okay. So one first exception is closing stock and second is profit loss. Okay. Now you might find a ledger for closing stock or you might not find. Like in the case I'm using, I never created any ledger under the group closing stock. Okay, so you would not find any ledger with parent closing stock here. So if you create any ledger with under the head closing stock, you would see here. Okay, you would see that row here, but you would see only opening balance of it, which you have manually entered for it. Closing balance will never come. Okay, because Tally dynamically calculates the closing stock value based on the period you change. Okay, in the profit loss. So you would never see any effects, accounting effect for closing stock in TRN accounting, because that is driven by either first case ledger is there in Tally. You can hard code values for different closing balance, closing dates. Okay, or maybe in the case I'm using, okay, basically Tallies calculate weighted average value of my closing stock based on that accounting period. Okay, 31st March 21. So we need to manually introduce opening and closing stock or here in this for the calculation of profit loss. Okay, and second exception is profit loss itself. So you would see a ledger called profit loss because this is a default ledger which Tally creates, but you would see only opening balances. And that too, in my case, it is 0 because I started fresh company. If you have split the data, then you would see the profit loss for that specific means till that financial year, you would see that in that opening balance. But closing balance of profit loss, Tally will never post an entry automatically. Okay, it is a dynamic based on all the income and expenditure closing balances. So these two things you always have to remember that you will not get, and you have to manually calculate for any of the calculations which you are doing. Okay, so I think let me introduce one sheet for opening and closing stock. Let's create one sheet. Let's say stock. Okay, and I would say opening and closing. So opening is 0 for me and closing, let me check, 75,50,433, 75,50.95. Okay, so these are the two figures which I am actually hard coding for the calculation purpose, because the remaining all the groups or ledgers under those groups are here with their respective closing balance, but for the opening and closing stock we'll have to manually get this from here. And if you have created ledger under the head stock, okay, stock in hand, then you just need to take closing balance, not opening balance, because opening balance is directly coming. You can write a SUMIFS and add up all the opening balances, whichever way which you feel is comfortable. Okay, so this would serve me for calculation of profit loss. Let's start preparing our P&L and balance sheet using pivot tables. Okay, so I will go in the MST Ledger worksheet, insert pivot table. Okay, and MST Ledger is a range. Let us name this, let's say, profit loss PL. Let me drag let's say group name. Okay, let's say group name parent. Okay, ledger name and closing balances. Okay, sum of closing. And here now currently it is showing all balance sheet and profit loss. So basically we need to drag BSPL here and just filter out profit loss PL, so that only profit loss portion is there. Okay, now this is a bit here and there because direct expense indirect is appearing at the top. So maybe I can uh, try to tweak the presentation like this. Okay, there are many possibilities, like we can drag back the name. Okay, and instead of that ALI, that means asset liability income expenditure, I can drag it above the parent, so that we have something like this. Okay, expenditure income, and inside expenditure we have direct indirect purchase. Okay, in whichever fashion it is, and we have something like this. So this is nothing but a group summary. Let me format this number, negatives debit and positives credit. Okay, let us try to match this. So I will go and match with tally. Okay, opening closing stock manually we are writing it. Sales 3279 54742. Okay, now the sales would not match because for me I actually forget to book a bill. So basically one of the GDN I missed sales invoice for that. Okay, so I need to prepare a sales invoice for that GDN which is causing this effect. Okay, so just book your sales invoice so that this row would go away. So purpose of showing this was so that if you encounter this case, you always know that what could go wrong. Okay, so that is the reason 3258 15 3258. Okay, this is coming correct. Purchase, let's match this 1664 matching. Direct expenses 125 81 450, yes, and indirect expenses also match 73. Okay, so in this entire equation only opening and closing, that means difference of opening and closing stock, that is missing. If we add up this thing from the stock, it would calculate our net profit. Okay, so let's say if I want to calculate net profit here, let's say I will insert sheet for calculation of ratios. Okay, but for ratio before I will have to create means calculate other figures, like let's say net profit. Okay, so net profit is nothing but is equal to this net difference, add up this, add up closing stock and reduce opening stock. Okay, reduce opening stock, or if opening stock is in negative, you don't have to reduce, you can add up. Okay, for I'm taking it positive, so I'm reducing opening stock, which is 0 for me anyway. Okay, this is net profit, and naturally this would not match because of this sales bills too big. Okay, that would be the only difference. So you know how to resolve it by booking your sales invoice, and after that the net profit would start matching. Okay, similarly you can also calculate gross profit. Very simple. In the trading account, naturally you will have very limited groups like opening, closing, sales, purchase, and direct expense and indirect, direct expense and direct income. Okay, so you can basically filter out all those groups here and manually calculate your hard coded, not hard coded, gross profit here in this fashion. Okay, so this is a net profit. Now you can derive your many of the ratios. Okay, once you have this, so you have turnover, so sales is nothing but turnover. So if you want turnover here, turnover, you can directly make an XLOOKUP. Okay, or you can even directly point out to this sales account, because if you click somewhere in the pivot, it is very properly filtering. So you even do not need to do an XLOOKUP. It is going to pivot table and saying that calculate means fetch out the row of only sales account. Okay, so this way we have turnover here. So you can start calculating your NP ratio, GP ratio like this. Okay, stock turnover ratio, whichever ratios which you want. This was just an idea. Actual implementation would vary a bit based on how you have arranged data in your tally or how the grouping is there for you in the tally. Same applies to balance sheet. If I make a copy of this, okay, I will create a copy of this and place it somewhere here, and I will rename it to BS. Okay, now here instead of PL, I will select BS, balance sheet item. So asset, liability, and inside that you have again groups. And if you want, you can always drag this a ledger table so that you have detail level and even calculate remaining ratios from here. And again, this would not match because difference is your profit, and again your profit is there here. Okay, so this would never match because we don't have profit loss here. Okay, profit loss is not dynamically calculated. Currently closing balance is shown 0. Friends, intention behind this video was not to create profit loss or balance sheet dynamically in the pivot table, but more of the brainstorming that how you can derive all these schedules. Okay, so basically you need to prepare balance sheet and profit loss in your own format, reporting format, and maybe for linking up the totals like I did for turnover or sales, you can prepare a pivot table and directly press equal to and link specific row of that pivot table. So basically this would assist you in preparing balance sheet and profit loss by linking your schedule totals to it. Okay, or maybe you can even prepare schedules as pivot table like DrCr, okay, in this format. So as you see, not everything can be automated, but objective was that whatever we can automate, do it in that fashion, and somewhere the manual intervention like for closing balance, okay, of closing stock, that was required, that we will do. Okay, but remaining things is automated. If you like this technique, do share the video with your friends, like it, and subscribe to the YouTube channel.